America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. Today we're going to talk about hothouse Dems. These are black Dems in red states, in solidly red states like Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Carolinas. Black Dems in solidly red states. Even if those states haven't been red for that long, they're red enough that the black Dems there haven't actually run anything ever. Like in anyone's recent memory, those black Dems have not run anything. So they don't have the taste or the even quality of competence for governance. And so we need to talk about what that means, that Democrats love hothouse Democrats. Democratic elites love hothouse Democrats. The Zionist Democrats love hothouse Democrats because if they haven't had the taste of any sort of real political autonomy, if they haven't actually run anything at the statewide level, that means they'll just do whatever it takes for the grift. And they've attracted grifters, and everything in their life has been about the grift. So these are the Jasmine Crockett's. These are the James Clyburns. They're not expected to actually govern. They're not expected to actually govern or put forth a political vision. They're expected to do whatever the paymaster says. So be very cautious of these hothouse Dems. And once again, hothouse Dems are going to be black Dems in hard red states. They do not work for black people because they can't, because black people are functionally politically powerless there. What they work for they're often Zionist donors. Right? They are there to manage black people, right? These hothouse Dems. And we have to think about these people who haven't governed for generations, like Democrats in South Carolina, haven't really governed at a statewide level since Reconstruction. With any sort of like aggressively, they can't be as black as the white people are white, right? So there are certain states where the black people can be as black as the white people are white. South Carolina is not one of them. Georgia is not one of them. Stacey Abrams is nice, but she can't be as black as Brian Kemp is as white and win. Like Jasmine Crockett trying to be as black as she wants to be. That's great, but she's not going to win. They love her because she's not going to win. Not the Republicans love her in Texas because she's not going to win. The Democrats love her in Texas because she's not going to win, because she can manage the black minority there without actually being competent with respect to power. Right? Hakeem Jeffries is in a little bit of and guys like Richie Torres, they're in a little bit of a more ticklish spot because he could actually wield power if he wanted to. But folks like Jasmine Crockett, folks like any black person in Georgia, Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, even actually North Carolina, maybe even Virginia, where you are a hothouse Democrat insofar as nobody actually expects you to win. You're not actually built for governance, and your people are not actually built for governance. This is where I need you to go to www.funkyacademic.com, kick in $5, $15, $50 a month, because this is where I'm going to take off a lot of people. If you're black and in South Carolina, even if you're black and in Georgia, you're not used to governing. Your people haven't governed here at the statewide level. No, you're used to listening to white people. And so the entire black leadership class is going to be one that's been conformed to listening to white people. You haven't run anything at the statewide level in Louisiana. You haven't. Maybe you have a little black city that's gone. That's a little black city that's scared because every time they go to the state, they have to go contend with the Klan. That is the state legislature, right? So the Democrats like the black Dems in the South haven't actually run anything. Don't have a sense of political autonomy or even competence, honestly. They like it. They like it because that means you can just get bought by Zionists. They can just get bought by Zionists. You will do whatever the national Democrats who run the money will tell you. And your people, the culture around you, isn't going to actually expect any sort of political goods. They're not going to expect governance. They'll be happy with symbolism because that's all they've ever known. They don't know that government can actually do things. What they get is what they get for being confused for poor whites, because, the white populace who run these red states, some of them are populous, they'll actually hook up poor whites, and then black people can eat off of that. But black people don't actually run things autonomously. Their vision of justice doesn't actually get realized. What you get is runoff or collaterals from what the Brian Kemps do for poor whites. And, arguably he does some things for poor whites, and then we confuse ourselves into thinking we are what they are. So we get that stuff too. And we can confuse the state and give us that stuff too. But you have to understand these hothouse Dems in South Carolina, they like black people running. They like black people, not just running, they like black people and the pretense of power because they're so easily bought. Jasmine Crockett will none of Jasmine Crockett's people expect her to do anything. None of the black women in Jasmine Crockett who love them, some Jasmine Crockett, actually expect policy from her. They don't even want her to expect policy. And Jasmine Crockett loves that. And you know who also loves that? The Zionists who run her. The Zionists who run her, who actually own things and write the checks, the out-of-state people. That's great. They don't have to actually contend with Jasmine Crockett's mind because there's not much there. There might be a lot there, but it's not like she's going to put forth a political vision. There was always going to be a hard ceiling for someone like Ayanna Pressley in Boston because her people would actually ask her to deliver. Whereas Jasmine Crockett's people will never ask her to deliver because they haven't been used to governing. They haven't been since Ann Richards. Is that the last Democrat statewide who won? Statewide, Ann Richards. And have no sense of someone says, Jasmine Crockett remind me of a brand of law students at my alma mater who are substantively vapid, morally dubious, and have no sense of the responsibility we hold as black leaders. Yes, and that's why she was picked. And these people are going to make great strides in democratic politics in these red states because they are so easily run by the white people who run things, often Zionists who run things and know that they can buy them. They'll just have them fly out to a little trip to Israel, ply them full of nice cheeses and wines, and they'll come back with the yarmulke and the whole Zionist. And their people won't mind. The people who elect them won't mind because those black Democrats aren't used to actually having a responsive governance anyway. So they won't mind. That's the virtue of a James Clyburn. James Clyburn people in South Carolina don't actually expect him to deliver governance. They don't actually expect him to deliver bills and articulate their plight and put forth a vision of the whole that actually shows the government's relation to civil society and made sure that the black South Carolinians and black people all across this wide nation can participate in America as equals with everyone else. They don't expect that from Jim Clyburn because they've never had that from black politicians in these red states, especially the southern red states. They've never had it. They don't expect it. And you know who knows that? Other Democrats. So they know if they get a Jasmine Crockett, they'll whatever power she gets, she's easily bought. Nikema Williams in Georgia, the head of the Democratic Party who gifted herself John Lewis's seat, and all of the people were okay with that. And all of the black Dems are okay with that because they're not actually serious about governance because they don't actually expect her to do anything. So it's all just a grift, and it's a grift run by non-black people. It's a grift run by Zionists and Democrats outside of the U.S., outside of Georgia who want to run Georgia and can because the black people in Georgia have never actually governed Georgia, not since Reconstruction. So we need to stop pretending that when they try to do things like move the South Carolina, the primary order and highlight South Carolina, it's because they know they can buy every Negro in South Carolina because none of those guys care about politics. There'll be a lot of black Democrats who have never actually run anything at the state level, and so the entire culture is just full of people who who vote but don't actually expect government to do anything, which is perfect for the people who want to buy your Democratic leaders. Right? Because they know James Clyburn people aren't going to hold them accountable to actually do anything because they've never actually seen government do anything for them because they hold them accountable. The Jimmy Harrisons. No, nobody's going to hold Jimmy Harrison accountable. No, those guys they have a purely symbolic job for people who's never actually had the taste of self-governance. Except for a little bit during Reconstruction, but it went right from the plantation to Jim Crow just market liberalism, where they don't control any of the media market. So like they're not even controlling their own mind, and the Zionists pick black leaders, and that's just how we are right now, and that's a real problem. But we need to talk about the usefulness of hothouse Democrats, hothouse black Democrats who who are run by someone else, just because, like, we need to be honest that black people in South Carolina, they don't know what to do with statewide power. Black people in Georgia don't know what to do with statewide power. Like, we've never had it, right? We've never had it. Mississippi, we've never actually had it. And the voters have been voting knowing they're not going to get it. So that warps your political ideology and like what you expect out of political officers. So of course you're going to be happy with symbolism because you don't expect actually to have the power to govern anything. Of course you're going to be satisfied with symbolism in South Carolina as a black Dem, or in Texas as a black Dem. You don't have the culture, you don't have the power, and you're not used to actually running anything, so you're not going to be able to hold them accountable. Right? So we need to, like, and it's very useful for the Zionists who run the Democratic Party to have a James Clyburn or Crockett, because they know that they can have the legitimacy without actually knowing that those people, the rank and file, aren't going to hold those leaders accountable because they never had to. And now it's generations into never having or never had to hold these leaders accountable. They get to pick the black leaders. Zionists get to pick the black leaders because we've never had the power to actually hold our leaders accountable for doing things. And so this actually got me thinking about what else we've been shut out and never had the power to actually do competently, so we just don't know how to do. And I don't think it's just politics in the South. I don't think it's just politics. I'm not in love with. I'm going to do a different video on black parenting. And just like the institutional relations. I'm not in love with what I've seen of black parenting. I'm not, like, in terms of, I mean, individual families, of course, do it right. But in terms of a culture and a cultural product, I'm not in love with what I've seen in terms of disseminated wisdom. Now, it's a different kind of dysfunctional than white parenting. That's a different kind of dysfunctional. But, like, it's also, we need a higher bar because black parents, have more to contend with. But we just have to think about being locked out of power for so long. We have lost the ability to actually do the job. And that's the same. And that's being good voters. That's being good candidates. That's a lot of things, and not just in politics, but also civil society. I'm going to cut the screen off and do and do another thing about family and what we need to do for the kids. But I just wanted to say that black Democrats in red states have not governed for generations. And so the entire political project becomes something other than governing. And as long as the entire political project becomes something other than governing, then it's just a sham political project. You don't know how to do the thing. And all the black people who are there aren't there to help black people in the same way that the white people are there to help white people. So that's a problem. Michael Thurman is a whole problem. So Michael Thurman is, I don't know, if Barlin and Bailey Negro. I don't know what the right thing is. He's from Athens. I'm in Athens. This is Michael Thurman country. He owns the radio station there. I just, like, he is, well, first of all, he was obviously bought by Bloomberg. He's just not anything more than, like, an incarnation of respectability politics. He's not anything more than an incarnation of respectability politics. He is really one of those guys who's like, well, I'm good, so we're good. And I've, like, he's not You don't go to Michael Thurman for a systematic analysis of how to get Black Georgia to be whole. Like Michael, it's funny because Michael Thurman's the answer to every Black history question that's ever asked in Athens, Georgia, and that's really a shame because he, I don't want to say feckless, but it's not like Black people in Georgia are doing that well because of him. Now, Maynard Jackson, different story. Maynard Jackson. Different story, especially what he did with the airport and the Olympics and like getting Black people paid. Different story. Maynard Jackson, I don't think Maynard Jackson and Michael Thurman need to be in the same sentence. But even him, he ran into the limits of Black power when you don't actually run anything at the state level. But like if we had Maynard Jacksons and Marion Barrys at the state level, then the Black people would know like what it means for government to work for you. Like Black people in DC still know what it means for the government to work for them because of Marion Barry. Not anybody else since, but Marion Barry, because they knew, like they saw a DC before Marion Barry, and then Marion Barry got them paid and got them jobs working for the city. So you have a whole generation of people who understand what government can do because of Marion Barry. And it's a similar thing with Maynard Jackson in Atlanta, similar. But for the most part, Black Democrats like have given up on governance, and it's all just symbolic. Like Nikema Williams is a whole problem. Like nobody can hold. Like Warnock, what's he gonna do for you? What's he gonna do for you? Nothing. He's not gonna do anything. He's not even gonna talk about doing anything, and we're not gonna hold him. And we're not gonna hold him accountable. And we're not going to hold them accountable. All right, so that's this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to cut the stream off, do another stream about Black families. We got to get it together. We're going to end up with our kids owned by other families.